Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast. My name is David,
And I'm Carl.
and you are watching us on the Star Wars Stuff YouTube channel, on our premium Twitter account, and on Facebook. It looks like Instagram's not working right now, so apologize to the Instagram people out there. But yes, this is the last episode. We are going to talk about the Acolyte in regards to the breakdown and Easter egg podcast type of show. So yeah, it was the cameos in here I think were shocking, and we'll get to that when we look at this episode every 10 seconds by 10 seconds. So before we get started, though, we definitely do want to acknowledge our top tier Patreon support, and we have a few new members, starting with Hayden Hauser, Darth Ace 1, Liam McCallan, Chris Simpson, Kevin Leininger, Deb McCaffrey, Drew Peters, Zach Netzel, Maya Morris, Makatao Tala, Adam Haber, Brad Mackey, Front Row King, and Darth Beard. They are now patrons, and a couple of those names I think you've seen in the comments previously. So I don't know if they're awake right now. It is actually 2:10 a.m. where Darth CJ and I are located. So, but yeah, we definitely want to recognize those people because they support the podcast. They help us fund certain things. The platform that you're watching us on, trips to conventions, that type of stuff. So thank you so much for all that support all throughout all these years. So yeah, the last episode, man. What kind of struck you? I know we've already had a conversation about this on the phone, but
Right.
now that you've seen the entire series, now that you've seen this last episode, what are your thoughts in hindsight about the Acolyte?
Well, it's a good first part to something. The problem is they didn't finish. I was a little disappointed there. Because you would have thought that they would have come to some form of conclusion, which they really didn't. They left a bunch of the questions that we had from the very beginning completely open. Didn't answer any of it. So that left me a little ho-hum, especially since we don't know if we're getting a second season. And with the apparent ratings, it doesn't look good that we are going to get a second season right now anyways. So essentially we're going to be left with, I don't know. Yeah, it seems odd.
So yeah, James and I, we just did a Patreon daily episode, which you can find on our Patreon page if you subscribe. Of course, go to Star Wars Stuff Podcast 2187. But yeah, the ratings, if you Google it, aren't that great for the Acolyte. I know there was a report out previously that it was the second most watched show after Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I didn't even think Obi-Wan Kenobi was that much viewed by people. I thought it was always like either The Mandalorian or one of the seasons of The Mandalorian, and it couldn't be beat. Because I think during the time of Andor, they kept on reporting that The Mandalorian was even viewed still more so than Andor, a brand new show that was airing, which was strange as well. But that just goes to the popularity of The Mandalorian. But I mean, who really knows? Disney does not report their numbers a lot like what Netflix does. So who's to really know? But there's a lot of people talking about the Acolyte. We all know that there's a lot of discourse about the show. There's a lot of people with a lot of channels that feel very negative about the show. But I think I was able to find the positives.
There's definitely a lot of positives here. I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
there's some good stuff in this show, and I think the good stuff outweighs the negatives for the whole piece. There, like I said, there are a few things that didn't sit right with me, and that's okay. But yeah, I think the biggest problems that I have with this show are structurally. I don't know about the editing, and I think I've said that throughout several of the episodes as well. And it's kind of stayed too.
You're getting kind of low on your mic there, so
Yeah,
you might want to bring it towards you more if you're gonna sit back. Um,
Yeah.
so, yeah, we're gonna go through the episode 10 seconds by 10 seconds as the YouTube overlords allow us. So here we go with the Acolyte, season 1, episode 8, entitled "The Acolyte." So, of course, we're gonna get the recap. Only a virgins could create this type of power, and we figure out that there was a virgins that was used to help create life. I think that's the general assumption with Anastasia. May burned down the witch's fortress, and everyone was lost. I fear May is only a small part of her master's larger plan. Well, of course, we got Vernestra Rowe, a character from the High Republic in live action, which was interesting, which is also Leslie Headland's wife in real life. And of course, Lee Jung Jae did an incredible job as Master Soul. And Amanda Stenberg did a really good job herself playing two different characters, playing essentially, as they described it in the show, the same person, even though it's kind of like twins. And this scene right here between Osha and Kymir on the unknown planet, which I think we all figure that to be Baldemnik or something along those lines, showing dark side appeal here. And the way, so this is interesting here to me because the way that they frame this and the music for this particular kind of flashback to the previous episodes here. But in this scene in particular, it makes it seem like Kymir wants a romantic relationship with May. And I know there was a lot of discourse over that, and a lot of people kind of jumped to that conclusion. Do you feel the same way?
I didn't really see that. I mean,
So it says desire, and he's touching her arm, and we can probably play that a little bit.
Below the surface of consciousness are powerful emotions: anger, fear, desire.
I mean, he says desire, and he touches her arm, and like the look in his face. A lot of people were kind of pointing that out previously, and I didn't really see it, but now it's like, okay, kind of looks like that.
I mean, I think it's an overall seduction type thing. I don't know that that is necessarily like romantic engagement, like actually meant that way. But
yeah,
we would need to get more show in order to find out whether that actually happens or not.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the more show, the better. The more detail, the more information we have, the more we can actually properly analyze and judge the show on what it is. But yeah, the episode before the penultimate, of course, Osha puts on the Cortosis helmet, which is such a cool helmet. I bought the Hasbro version, and of course, we hit the beginning of the show. We get the fanfare that we always get, the red and the blue on the different helmets. And we get the Lucasfilm logo, as we always do. But we get a breath at the beginning. And, of course, we cut back to Osha with the helmet on, breathing. And very reminiscent, of course, we all know Darth Vader. And we get unsettling music playing. The music is by Michael Abels. And all of a sudden, we jump into a jolt that Osha has, and that freaks out Kymir. Kymir approaches her and gets locked in that same trance that Torben gets put into. Now, it looks like that's the doing of Osha. It's like she's, like all of her force powers are coming to light. And of course, she was created by Anastasia, so maybe that was kind of like her gift. Anastasia put herself into Osha and May, and we get a kind of lock that Kymir is able to break. And it switches to the realm that we saw between Torben and Anastasia, where it's darker, it's colder, you see their breath, and we get a flip-flop back out of it to reality, And right here, you might see a little bit of Kymir's eyes. They turn black, of course, like Torben's. So Kymir is able to break out of it and take the helmet off, which shows a lot of power, I think. And
May. It's on May.
and Osha gets visions. She sees the future, essentially, which is something that we've seen a lot of in Star Wars, read a lot about, that Jedi can get visions of the future. Of course, Anakin got his visions of Padme dying. So the interesting thing, I didn't notice this on the first watch, but if you look carefully into her eyes, you can actually see what looks to be red lightsabers. If I could stop it at the right frame. I'm so close. Right there. So if you look really carefully, if you're watching this on video, you can see what looks to be either red lightsabers or the endings or beginnings of Sith eyes.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to say though because there are several like light sources, like different colored light sources in that room as well. So that could also just be something being packed, but it does look like it. But I don't know if that's intentional or not.
And they go away eventually as she comes out of it, out of the heavy, heavy breathing.
She was killing.
So Osha does see a vision of May killing Sol. And of course, she looks identical to her sister, so she could have been seeing herself very easily and just mistake that fact.
Well, especially since they're the same person. So,
right. That also has a lot to do. And Kymir points it out.
You saw.
This is the future you saw. And it's kind of like a question.
She can kill with no weapon.
And then he comes to the realization that the whole quest that she's been on is to kill a Jedi without a weapon. That's like the last test.
Can still stop her.
And if you notice what Osha's wearing, she's very reminiscent to Luke Skywalker in Return of the Jedi. She's wearing the all black.
I think in her case it's more like a dark gray, but yeah, I mean.
Okay, yeah, it kind of goes back to the whole brown cloak, black cloak type thing. But even Kymir's helmet looks black in certain situations, but it's like it's like an off. It's like a darker
copper
tan.
tone.
Yeah, like copperish tan. Because that's what the Hasbro Plus helmet is colored as well. So yeah, Kymir says we go together, and we jump back to the Poland, the Jedi ship, where Sol has strapped May down to the bed there, and he's kind of contemplating how he's going to tell May, going to break the ice and tell her what the reasoning was, why everything has gone down the way it has. And May still has Pip, so Sol kind of messed up there. Left Pip on her side, which is the Star Wars Swiss Army knife / iPhone or smartphone.
Yeah. Also, there's the fact that for some reason he can never sense anything about her, like, which is weird to me. Like, it just from the
Well, okay, so I think we talked about this, and kind of, I don't think anyone got a clear cut explanation. So they were created due to avergence on Brendock. Do you think some of that can cloud? Because Yoda has clearly said in the past that the dark side clouds everything. So there's a bit of dark side kind of in the air with these kids. But of course, May is like breaking good while Osha is breaking bad.
Right. So yeah, it's just I just find it odd, like the types of mistakes that Soul makes don't
Yeah.
seem to really go with the kind of very thoughtful character he is otherwise.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's just weirdness. It's in the script, so we'll take it.
Yeah, I mean his love for OSHA is kind of blinding him in a way. I think that's another
Yeah,
kind of
but
aspect.
this is
they're
not
trying
OSHA.
Right, but I mean it's all about OSHA really. OSHA is the reasoning behind everything, and this is OSHA's sister slash person that's identical, even more identical than a twin. I mean, there's a lot of feelings he has.
What happened to you?
Yeah, there we see Pip with the red lights there, set back to factory settings. And of course, they go back and forth while May's trying to pick the lock. And you see Saul saying, "My biggest regret is that I wasn't able to save you both." And then we cut to a shot where she frees herself of the restraints and uses Pip again as like a stun gun and puts Soul down.
See you in hell.
And yes, the "see you in hell" dialogue there, we've seen that a couple times. One time that I think everyone forgets is the very first time. Do you remember the very first time someone said something about hell?
Yes, it's Han Solo.
No, it's not.
Really?
Yeah, I know. It freaked me out too. But I mean, it's a line and a scene we all know and love. It's episode 4. It's Uncle Owen when he says there'll be hell to pay.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's not used in the same fashion though.
Right. But
But
hell
the
is
first-
mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah, the first time you hear this line, the "see you in hell" line, it's Han Solo. But
Right. This particular line. So yeah, she jumps in the little shuttlecraft there that's docked into the Poland and pops on the helmet, powers it up, and we of course see the ACOLYTE logo that we've been seeing, and then we finally get the space chase scene through the rings of that planet. And very cinematic. Would have loved to see this in the theater. And more unsettling music is playing. And we see them fly through all the rock and the dust and the rings. And we get this console view of the, I guess the crosshairs. What do you call that? What's the technical term for that?
yeah, it's a reticle. I mean,
Yeah, so I don't think we think that Saul was trying to shoot her down or anything. There's like a tractor beam element or something to this ship and was maybe trying to pull her in. But Basil thinks differently. Basil's in the back and sabotages the Poland.
yeah, which this scene didn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it doesn't make any sense that he's trying to protect her to begin with. So, I just don't understand why this is here.
The only thing I think we can come to the conclusion to is Basil thinks that he's about to shoot her down and wants to prevent that. I guess Tynan's or Basil in particular doesn't want anyone to get hurt, wants to prevent evil, wants to just make everything better. But yeah, that's the only thing I think
Yeah, I mean, it's
we
just,
and everyone else could come up with.
yeah. The problem there is that you have to reach really, really, really far to come up with anything. So it shouldn't even be there in the first place, in my opinion.
Yeah. So yeah, we see May kind of fall through the rock and the dust of the planet. We cut to a shot of Ernesto Rowe, and we see Mog again, his like I think this is his second appearance, and he reports back that that one senator, Raincourt, is in the control room, and that displeases Vernestra, and says, "Why is he there?" And then we have this scene of where we get politics back in Star Wars, in maybe the most major way in this series or in this season. And we get to this actor. He actually played Martian Manhunter on one of the CW shows as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of see the reference that was made to Raincourt that he did not favor the Jedi at all. And Raincourt is questioning Vernestra on what the situation is, and she clearly says, "I'm keeping this internal for the moment." And she brings up multiple dead Jedi. Raincourt says multiple victims. And Raincourt gives a speech that he thinks that the Jedi are a delusional cult that claims to control the uncontrollable. And Vernestra basically says, it's we don't control the Force. And Raincourt basically says it's not the Force, it's the people, it's these powerful Jedi, and it's he says you project an image of goodness and restraint. And Vernestra is kind of like sparring back and forth a little bit. Says that she says that's certainly an opinion, and Raincourt kind of breaks it down that, I mean, one of you guys is gonna snap eventually. And the other interesting thing that someone pointed out, I'm not sure who figured this out, but I mean, it's right in our face. But Vernestra is the only Jedi. She's the only Jedi that we've ever seen that like casually will open doors with the Force. She's the only Jedi that we've ever seen that. We've seen Obi-Wan Kenobi do it on Kamino, but he was in distress and he didn't have time to keep at it. Even at the mining colony, the Jedi didn't use the Force to open up the doors, which I guess is like a hint to, I don't know, dark side. I don't know, but I thought that was kind of something to think about. And
Yes. I mean, it's also the not so subtle hint that it's time for you to go now kind of thing. So,
and yeah, Raincourt, before he leaves, he says, "Good luck," or how do you say? What do you people say? "May the Force be with you." So he's kind of mocking. And this is an interesting shot right here. It's a fade away into those creatures on the unknown planet. And we get a real close-up shot of Vernestra Rowe's face. And if you notice on this unknown planet, you do see blocks that are like
yeah,
cut,
like there was a structure there before.
Exactly, and it either fell or was disassembled. I would think it just kind of maybe fell or got blown up due to battle, and we see the base or what was at the top. Something fell over, like a spire, a tower, a castle, something like that. This looks like a good scene, a good spot for a castle. And this is kind of like an island out there, out next to where Kymir was.
Right. Looking at that, if you go to like cities that have a seawall, they tend to use concrete blocks like that too. So it could just be a seawall that got a little destroyed over the years due to neglect.
So the other thing too is that ship that Kymir has that only seats 2 apparently. And they have a conversation walking up to the ship. They're going to go back to Brendock, essentially. And Kymir is still asking, how about turning to the dark side? And she says, "I'm not my sister." And Kymir says, "Yeah, you definitely aren't." And here's a shot. So did we see this shot in a previous episode out of Kymir's cave where we see this entrance opening? And then
yes, Osha walks out through that door. Right. Remember when in the bathing scene?
Right. So Here's the first big cameo, never before seen live action. We see a hand, 5 fingers, humanoid, very spindly hand. And of course, it's Darth Plagueis.
Right.
Leslie,
I mean,
Leslie Headland has confirmed it.
well, and the music confirms that too, because it's the Darth
Right, yeah,
Plagueis music from the opera. So,
Yeah.
I do question why that character is here though, because like, does Kymir know he's there? Because seeking an apprentice in front of you, like if there's an actual master apprentice situation here between Plagueis and Kymir, then Kymir should be a little bit more careful bringing his supposed apprentice over here while his master's like next door.
Right.
So yeah, it's weird. Cool that we get to see Plagueis. I mean that part
Yeah.
I enjoy, but I'd like to have an explanation why he's there.
Yeah, so Leslie Headland did an interview with IndieWire, and she basically said as much that when she was thinking about the story of the Acolyte, Plagueis was always going to be there. So when they announced the Acolyte, the first character I thought of was Plagueis. So that's pretty cool that I jumped to that conclusion. But of course, Plagueis is not the main character. It's the twins, it's Soul, it's Kymir. You can go on and on. Vernestra is on the side there. But she always had Plagueis in mind, and she was actually thinking about making Plagueis like an end credits thing, but she didn't want that to step on the ending with Osha in the end. But one thing that not a lot of people are talking about are when you look at his hand, it looks like the same. It's almost like camouflaged into that rock. Is that like a power that Plagueis has, or is that kind of like?
No, I think that's just a skin tone. I mean, if you look at his face, it's the same thing. I mean, I don't think he's like a chameleon kind of thing.
You think he's like an octopus?
No.
Because it's like, what if he was there the whole time and he was just kind of like hiding in the rock,
like blending into the rock? Yeah, right. I mean, I guess,
but he can do that. But
yeah, I don't think so either. But plus, he's wearing robes, so then he might be able to blend into it, but his robe would just be standing there. Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, the thing that I find unfortunate is that they didn't use him as a character at all. This is literally the only time we get to see him, and so we don't know why he's there. What the affiliation is.
Right.
Did he just happen to walk, find this place right as they're leaving? Is he involved in this story at all?
Was he at the Ascension ceremony in one of those robes?
Well, yeah, I mean, you just throw this character in here, and I think it's actually an unfortunate placement. I think it probably would have worked out better at the very end of the show than it would have where they put him in here, because now people like me, I immediately got excited. Oh, cool, we get to see Plagueis, so he's going to interact with the rest of the show. And unfortunately, he doesn't.
Yeah. And you see him scrunch his face up a little bit with the red eyes. Then we're back to Brendock, back to the mining colony there. And what we didn't show you is the fact that May crash lands, the ship kind of skids down. So all roads lead to the mining colony on Brendock. And this is an interesting scene right here because Vernestra's talking to someone on a communication device very similar to what Han Solo talked on in A New Hope when he asked them, "Are you all right? We're okay here. How are you?" And the voice you hear sounds a lot like a young Ian McDermott.
Sergeant, this is highly unorthodox, but I shall see what I can do.
So,
yeah, but he's not even born yet. So, well, not McDermott, but the Palpatine. So,
right. Well, I mean, Plagueis technically wasn't born yet either.
Yeah, but
canon.
But we know we know that plague is has the develops the ability for unusually long life. They say that. The problem is, could Palpatine be doing the same thing? Sure, but Palpatine is from a famous family. He's actually celebrity when he's born, so he can't. His lifespan can't be unusually long until after he becomes the Emperor. So that's the thing that speaks against that being Palpatine in any way, shape, or form. But it could be his dad, I guess, maybe, or somebody in that family, because again, it's a famous political family.
Yeah, and Mog shows back up again. Vernestra gets up. Her chair is very reminiscent of Palpatine's, though.
Well, actually, that whole design on that is very Inferno Squad, which I thought it was a little awkward. Is that her little? I don't know if that's her personal quarters or what that is, but everything in there kind of screams a little Empire.
Yeah.
Without raising alarm.
Yeah. And we get the two moons of Brendok there.
Mm-hmm.
One of them has the big rings. And you could see on the ship there's 2 cockpits.
Yeah, it's like the cloud cars in Empire.
And we see Sol go back up to the scene of the crime where the big hole is, where the Vergence is located. And he goes through the ruins. And of course, Chimere and Osha get back to the same spot. Solemn music's playing. And we get an encounter here coming up. And this is poetic. May jumping out of where she fell so long ago. Now in the white, representing her light side.
So I have a question there. Did she enter the facility through the tunnel that we later see her leaving through? And that's why she's
like. Yeah.
And that's why she's climbing out of the hole, because a lot of people interpret it as she was hiding there. I didn't. I assumed that instead of using the front door, she used her little secret access tunnel to get in.
Right, because that's how she kind of escaped. And that's explained in the end there. And yeah, Pip is beeping. And she goes back to the old room between her and her sister. And we see Osha here trying to slice the controls of the mining colony there. And then we get a shot back of Sol. And the stranger says, "Thank you for leading me to her." And then we get a really cool lightsaber battle. And I wish we could show all of it, but yeah, it was really good.
In my opinion, this is actually one of the definitely the top 5 lightsaber battles in all of Star Wars, which is I mean, this to me is way better than anything that they showed in Obi-Wan, for example. Like the Obi-Wan Vader fights, those were cool, but this is way better. I really like what they did for this show of incorporating more ancient martial arts with the lightsaber fighting and they don't do like a lot of lightsaber twirling like they did in the prequels and the sequels for that matter. It's more strategic combat, and I really enjoy that.
What do you think about this scene right here where they do the slow motion?
I mean, you kind of have to do this one in slow motion, because if you didn't, it would be over so quickly that you wouldn't get these really cool, still shots. I think it's the right way to go, because it would be really hard to follow otherwise if they were just going at regular speed.
And we get a force throw of the lightsabers, and a move we haven't seen in live action this way before. It's like a repulse move, and it shuts off the sabers, and I think they shut off automatically. Anytime a Jedi gets knocked out or a saber,
well,
leaves a Jedi's
right.
hand.
I mean, the technically lightsabers are supposed to shut off when they're dropped. So when when the wielder's hand goes away, and so in essence, when you do this, when he knocks back Chimere, is when the lightsabers turn off because he breaks that concentration to keep them on.
Yeah. I like how he falls back, and I like how he pulls the lightsaber back out and ignites it real slowly. Yeah. That's awesome. So, she goes back to her childhood room, looks at everything all burnt to a crisp. There's ash, and of course her sister is there waiting for her. And, of course, they have some stuff to talk about. And you kind of really see the yin and yang here of the whole situation. And yin yangs have been present throughout the whole series. And I think everyone was assuming there's going to be a great flip-flop between Ocean, May, dark side, light side. And it's pretty much complete here. And we get a fight that ensues. They go at each other. Very reminiscent of, I think, in Endgame. I believe it was Endgame when Captain America fights his younger self.
Yeah, kind of.
And then we see kicks, and it's kind of like they're replicating the same moves against each other. And the cool thing is the transition to the lightsabers of Sol and Chimere fighting. And they continue to fight. Like you said, one of the best saber fights ever. And this is a really cool thing right here because we get a shot of Chimere's trying to use the Cortosis helmet to deactivate Sol's blade, so it's an easy kill. He won't have the use of his lightsaber. And it's kind of a reversal of what we normally see. Sol's trying to keep from the lightsaber from touching his opponent while Chimere's trying to pull the lightsaber into him. I thought that was a cool touch.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I don't know necessarily a lot of people caught that Chimere's saber is actually, he actually hooks behind Sol's lightsaber, which is, makes no sense unless you're wearing a Cortosis helmet.
Yeah. So I really like the whine and the sparks flying off the saber. It hitting the Cortosis. And I think the first time we saw that or heard that was, would it be Empire Strikes Back with Luke and Vader? Or would it be Return of the Jedi?
I think it's both, actually.
Yeah, I know it happens in Return of the Jedi, but the whine of the sabers is that
when they go while they're being forced into one another.
Yeah. So, I thought that Sol in this instance, and we've seen this before with Obi-Wan and Darth Maul and the Twin Sons episode of Rebels, where he just slices through, but he didn't slice through Chimere, he just sliced through his lightsaber. So
if you go frame by frame, which I did, you can actually tell that he misses him because he's not trying to kill him; he's actually trying to disarm him.
The cool thing is you could see the red kyber crystal poking out. That's really cool. It's so hard to go frame by frame on Disney+.
Yeah. So what makes this that scene a little confusing is because I have that flat side by side shot, right? And you don't know who's in or out, but in that scene, Chimere is actually in the foreground and Sol is in the background. So if you look at it that way, then it makes sense why this lightsaber gets sliced, not Chimere.
And it looks like, and I think there's actually a question out there: are the twins maybe using that smoke power that Anastasia and Coral had to just kind of appear out of nowhere? Because that's what happens right here. And Chimer's like dead to rights, and then boom. But then again, there was a entryway to come out of.
Well,
that
Mei
tunnel.
Li exits the fight with OSHA.
Yeah.
And which is why she arrives first. And if you look at it, she's coming out of the doorway that OSHA later stands in. So
Right.
that I think it's just that she's just running up. Because there's no black smoke visible here in any case.
Right. And then we hear this phrase that's very familiar: "Strike them down, and your journey will be complete." A lot like what Palpatine said in Return of the Jedi. And then Saul's out here trying to reason, and this is May. She says, "I want him to confess what he did." And Saul's just like, "I was doing this out of love to protect you guys." And he still, till the end, sees it that way. And he goes through with the explanation that the twins are the same person. Don't know how Anastasia was able to create life, but she did. She created you guys. And it has something to do with the Vergence on the planet, which the Vergence is a huge concentration of the Force. Very powerful, very sacred, important to Jedi. And breaks it to her, "I believe she used the Force to create you and OSHA." And then Chimer's just standing there, helmetless, helmet in hand. And Saul explains in the history of the galaxy, very few have been that powerful. And you can tell Saul's getting emotional about the whole thing. And then, of course, OSHA appears in her dark gray suit. And she gets the explanation finally from Saul that he was trying to do the right thing. This was the only way. And she asks, "Why didn't you tell me?" Saul says, "You were too old to train." And so many times Saul wanted to tell her the truth but couldn't. And then we go into the last trial with OSHA, force choking Saul. Right when Saul was about to say, he gets the L sound out. And I think we all think that he was about to say, "Because I love you." And he didn't get to say it because he's getting choked. And previously, May had the lightsaber, Saul's lightsaber, and throws it, cracks it open, exposes the kyber crystal on the side. And you can clearly see, and you can see a little bit, I don't know if that vein is just naturally in her hand, but you can see the kyber crystal touching OSHA's skin, and she bleeds it, seemingly without knowing. And this is Saul's lightsaber, his blue kyber crystal, which is a first for live action.
Right. The only other time you get to see that is in a Vader comic, I believe.
Yes, and of course, Ahsoka bleeds her Inquisitor kyber crystals, but purifies them, so kind of does somewhat of the opposite.
Yeah, she does the reversal.
Yeah. And yeah, Saul dies. He's the last of the four, the Brendok four, to be killed, and it looks like she crushes his windpipe.
Which is, by the way, also how Vader kills without a weapon. In the aforementioned comic, he force chokes the Jedi that he takes the lightsaber from.
Yeah. And Chimera almost comes over, congratulatory. And this is another really cool scene, I thought. You see the actual transformation of the blue blade to the red blade, and you see a little smoke coming off the top of it as well, and off the sides. I wouldn't have thought to put that in there, but I would think it would automatically just be red. But I mean, I guess there's some blue
Well,
the bleed.
I guess the bleed wasn't completely completed when she turns it on. I think is what they're trying to say. But as she ignites it, she finishes off. What I thought was kind of a cool effect is that it actually gets a little bit of that unstable lightsaber crystal effect,
Yeah.
like Kylo Ren's,
Yeah.
until it's complete and then it stabilizes.
Hmm.
So I'm sure that's intentional, because like if you look at the blade right there, it's not like
Yeah.
it's not a straight edge blade. It has like
Yeah.
imperfections in it.
That's pretty cool. And if you look at her eyes, you kind of see what was in the cave, her eyes in the cave. So that's a pretty good mirror. And of course, Vernestra shows up with a group of Jedi, and once she steps on that planet, she senses her old Padawan.
Actually, I don't know that we can actually say that, because again, they don't give us an explanation. She senses Chimere, but doesn't. There's no mention of any kind or indication of any kind that that's her Padawan. It's just somebody she knows. Could it be her Padawan? Sure, but they never actually say or indicate that. They don't even say whether Chimere was part of the Jedi Order. So
You.
And he slaps the helmet on really quick.
right, because
So-
he leaves himself exposed. The second the
Right.
helmet goes on, she can't sense him anymore.
Right, right.
So, but yeah, this is another one of those unfortunate things where maybe if you had given us an explanation what the relationship is there, the scene would make more sense.
I thought at
But-
the very end, Vernestra says, I had someone that I was teaching, and they turned evil or something.
No,
I think we get that kind of explanation at the end. Yeah, Mog finds Basil, or Basil finds Mog and says, "You're all right. What a relief." And then we get the conversation here. I think the closed caption just stayed up.
I know a way out.
And here we get a reference coming up to The Empire Strikes Back on Cloud City. Coming up here. And here's Vernestra opening doors with the Force. Slides it open. And the twins go back to the scene of the bridge where it breaks. And of course, May is a whole lot familiar. She leads them down. Trying to get to the right spot here. So this is very reminiscent of Cloud City when Luke gets sucked into one of the tunnels there, and the lighting scheme, the angle of the camera. Instantly you think about Bespin, Cloud City. And you get the group of Jedi kind of investigating, and Vernestra's giving out orders. And she sees Master Soul, who she did have some connection to. And she's actually hearing what had taken place previously. And I think we're all assuming via the Force. That's her Force ability. And I think I know for sure the reference to her going into hyperspace, it was always unsettling because she would get visions and she could talk to people that had passed and that type of thing. But here I think it's more or less just that Force ability to detect past events.
Yeah,
And she kinda
that
gets-
whole echo ability that
Yeah.
they have in the Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor games.
Yeah. And Vernestra gets on her knees next to Soul, and she says in so many words that she's sorry. And of course, Chimere's staring at her, and Vernestra senses and looks right at the spot where he was, but he's gone. And the twins exit. You see the Jedi walking around in the forest there, and the twins get back to the Boonta tree, and this is kind of where it all goes down, the last kind of meeting between the two. and Kymir's present. They kind of talk about what's next, and they recite the poem, and they ask each other who came up with that, and they're like, "Well, we don't know." And Kymir points out that, hey, look, if I could find you, the Jedi could find you that are on the planet, which is what's happening. And they're going back and forth with Kymir. And of course, he's still reasoning about light side, dark side. Going back with the Jedi is not the best idea here. And they reason out that May just wants a mind wipe, which is, that was like a fast conclusion, I thought. But
yeah, I actually thought in that scene that the more logical conclusion would have been for Osha to kill Kymir. So say, okay, look, that we only have room for two. This is my sister. I choose my sister, and ended right there, because I thought we were gonna get at least some form of conclusion to some of these storylines, and that would have, done that. But yeah, no, they once again the complaint from the beginning. They don't explain anything. They don't shut down any of the storylines.
yeah, May and Osha embrace. May gives the nod to Kymir to wipe her mind. He does the mind wipe. They recite the poem, and of course she forgets the last parts of the poem. And the Jedi show up, and of course Osha and Kymir do the Batman and disappear without a trace. And they bring May back to the Jedi on Coruscant for Nestra, and totally different clothing, robes that we've seen her before. Way more formal with the Jedi Order crest there. She asks what you last remember, and May says, fire, my family, dying. And Vernestra points out that, yeah, that was when you were 8 years old. That was long ago. And she starts with the lies here, and she kind of fabricates a lot of stuff and kind of twists the truth around to the benefit of not getting in trouble, and this going up to involving the Senate and trying to work a story that's favorable to keeping this under wraps here. And we'll see that a little bit later. And yeah, Soul technically, did kill the mom, but it was not the same circumstances that were, I don't know, insinuated. And Vernestra goes in front of like a tribunal and talks about, in fact, fabricates the 4 Jedi, and that Soul was the one behind the conspiracy there about killing his fellow Jedi. And just twists the truth, really.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's even twisted that you can even label it twisting anymore. She just flat out
outright
lies.
lying, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, there's some elements of there, but it's not defendable in any way. So yeah, she kind of taints Soul's name here. A rogue Jedi named Soul. He wasn't a rogue Jedi at all. And they cut back to Vernestra apologizing to Soul lying dead in Brendok. And of course, Raincourt's been suspicious the whole time of the Jedi. And you kind of see his facial reactions. And Vernestra tries to pin it all on Soul. And of course, Soul's dead. You can't cross-examine Soul and figure out the truth. And and we get a shot, if I can stop it at the right time.
A mistake he lived with for so long, it twisted his mind. He justified.
I need to go back a little bit. Yeah, you see the fire. Of course, you've seen this before with bodies being burnt.
Soul made a mistake.
Right there in the far
Yeah, so she did
background
like
there.
like a Viking funeral.
Right. And some people are pointing out, okay, Soul might still be alive because you don't see the body. No body, no death. But I mean, I think it's safe to say we saw the body dead.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think she's burning things just for the sake of burning stuff. I mean, that's clearly a funeral pyre. So yeah, no, he's done. And
yeah.
Apparently nobody's figured out how to become a Force Ghost yet, because in canon, Qui-Gon supposedly one of the, if not the first, to actually figure that one out. At least according to Yoda. So.
Yeah, and Vanessa Rose says he justified every selfish step with the love he had for your sister, and Soul was trying to say that out loud. And a lot of memes have been made about this. Does the name OSHA mean anything to you? Of course, OSHA is a company for corporations that checks on safety, and people have made memes of people doing crazy stuff in a video, and then Vanessa Rose pops up. Does the name OSHA mean anything?
I by the way, I always thought it was funny that they named the character OSHA out of all things, because of the safety.
Yeah, the safety company. Yeah, that gets. I think when I worked for Motorola, they really ingrained OSHA in my brain, and they kept on saying OSHA this, OSHA that. Let's do a test about OSHA. OSHA and Cobra. Those are the two companies they kept on talking about. And then Vernestra kind of tries to comfort May. You poor girl, you've been through so much, because she has no idea, because she's got her mind wiped. And then Vernestra says, I need your help. And see, here's the part I was talking about, Carl.
Right, she says pupil, but again, it's just weird, because there needs to be more backstory for this to really make any sense.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think the safe assumption is she's talking about Chimera. That's the people.
Right, yeah, I mean, I'm assuming so as well, but but again, the vagueness is what hurts the show a lot of times, because they never actually fully commit to anything. You know, they never go, this is what it is. It's always like, it's probably this. And I don't understand why they feel the need to kind of leave everything vague all the time. Even all the way through to the end here. It's like, okay, where do we go from here?
We get the violins, the evil violins, and we see them like kind of holding hands, which is interesting.
Whoa.
But
they're actually holding lightsaber,
right?
Which is weird, because if you look at it, you can see they're actually both holding lightsabers. Yeah, are they touching hands in the process? Sure, but
yeah, hand touching in Star Wars.
I'm wondering if he's, doing that to kind of make sure she doesn't kill him, because she doesn't actually need him for anything, as we've established. I mean, she figured out how to force choke somebody to death without any instruction whatsoever. So I think the power balance has completely shifted in this relationship. Like,
yeah, multiple meanings here. I mean, this is very reminiscent of Attack of the Clones, when Anakin puts his metal hand out and Padme and Anakin hold hands after their wedding. But yeah, in a very, very traditional way to end a film / show, because we see them staring off into the sunset, and it's two people facing away from the camera. So if you look back on all the previous Star Wars film endings, it's usually the sadder ending films that you see the two people looking away from the camera. And the happier films that end, people are looking at the camera. Like Phantom Menace was happy, A New Hope was happy, and the somber films were Attack of the Clones, Empire Strikes Back, when Luke, Leia, R2, 3PO stare out into the galaxy and watch the Falcon leave. Which is cool, which is the whole poetry thing.
Yeah. Now, again, though, I think the Plagueis reveal should have been right here.
Yeah, I think it would have been cool.
I think it would have been more impactful.
Right, right.
Because it kind of then would have been like, okay, now you're throwing up a interesting, possible connection, maybe not a connection, but the way the Plagueis reveal happens in the show, it's just completely meaningless.
Yeah, well,
it's just like, hey, look, it's Plagueis, and we're never gonna address it again. If it was at least, hey, look, it's Plagueis, show ends, credits roll, at least I could live with that. But just oh, by the way, just remember, Barry, or for those of you who know who this is, haha, but we're not gonna do anything with it. Yeah, if there had been any hint of any kind of like some dark figure following Chimera around, or any of that prior to, I would have been like, okay, they finally, now you're explaining who this dark figure is, but that's not there either. So it's not like there was any indication there was anything of this going on. So right here, it would have been at least acceptable to me personally.
Yeah, I get that. So the screen goes black for a moment, picks back up. We see Vernestra in the same garb. Says, "Sorry to disturb you, Master.
We need to talk."
We need to talk." Camera pans down, ears go up. Of course, it's Grand Master Yoda. And we're all assuming it's the puppet from The Last Jedi that they're using here, because they created a really expensive version of Yoda for that movie and have never used it until now, apparently. But he should look a little younger, since it's 100 years prior to the first time we see him in The Phantom Menace. So, what were your thoughts on this, on seeing Yoda at the very end? No dialogue, no shot of him in the front.
Right.
I mean, his face could have been missing on the puppet.
Well, maybe, but but of course it's cool. Yes, we all know Yoda's alive during all these events.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Now, my problem is just a kind of a walking on eggshells moment here as far as canon overall is concerned. Because, okay, we got to talk about what? What are you about to tell him? Because if you tell him this whole story about Osha and May, then you're breaking canon. If you talk,
right? I mean, it's
if you
want to
talk,
obviously, and more dancing around, like eggshell.
Well, if you're telling him about the whole Senate situation of what came out of that hearing that she just got out of, then no harm, no foul to canon on the whole, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, it's just anytime you get into the original trilogy characters, you kind of start. One of the benefits this show had the entire way through is that it wasn't connected to anything per se, like directly connected. This changes that. Maybe not. But again, they don't actually give us an answer to anything. So, that is my biggest complaint. Like I said about this show is that the fact that they just don't answer any of the real questions in the show. Like they give us some level of conclusion to a minor story arc, but they don't. They don't commit to anything. We don't know how Chimera fits into all this in the first place. We don't really know why Osha and May were created. All we know is that they were created into the same person. now we know that Yoda potentially knows about this, but we don't know that for sure either. We know Venestra and Chimera may or may not have been, she calls him a pupil. But is she actually referring to Chimera? Because they don't actually say Chimera once again. Now, it can strongly be inferred that that's who she's talking about, but again, it's this weird non-committal storylines thing where they never actually, like I said, they don't make a connection between Plagueis and Chimera. They don't make a full-blown connection between Venestra and Chimera. They don't make a full-blown connection between Plagueis and the Witches' Coven. It's just all kind of hinted at, but nothing is explained. That really irks me. Like I said, there's a lot of good stuff in the show, but I don't understand why they felt the urge not to explain anything. Like it almost feels like this should be the halfway mark of the show. Like there should be another like I said, this should be the end of episode 4, and if they were hour-long episodes, it could be. But because it feels incomplete. It seems a little odd considering that you would end it this way, considering that you don't know whether you're getting picked up for a second season. If Disney had said in advance, like they did with Andor, for example, where we know there's another season coming because they already commissioned it. They did. With Andor, they immediately said we're doing 2 seasons. Here they didn't. So the fact that they treat this show as if it is going to have 2 seasons, without actually having any, at least not formally announced, version of that being the case, makes this ending a little ho-hum to me.
Yeah, that's the big thing. We just don't know if we're going to get a season 2 or if it's going to continue in any way, shape, or form into anything else.
Right. I
mean, you figure we're going to get the gaps filled in. We're going to get a Plagueis thing. And then, of course, Yoda is around, so we'll probably get him in there. But when are we going to get it? That's a big question. Are we going to get it this decade? In 2024, they've already committed to 3 separate films, maybe 4 films. After Skeleton Crew and Andor, there's no more series in production for Disney Plus. Nothing talked about. I would figure at least we'd get 1 in production, and
I would
quality over quantity thing.
Right. I mean, I think at this point, especially with the way a lot of people didn't really take to the show all that well, I think it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to kind of leave this particular story and maybe do a Plagueis show. Because the Plagueis' appearance made everybody's ears perk up. Clearly, there's more interest in that. And you can still use these characters as part of that, because again, his presence wasn't explained in any way, shape, or form, so you have complete freedom to do whatever you want to there. Because you don't show Tenebris, which is his master, so there's no actual confirmation that is a thing in this as well. I mean, obviously, he would have to have a master for the whole Rule of 2 thing, but since because in the Plagueis book, Tenebris and him actually kind of go searching for Cortosis, so it would make sense that they're both here. That could be a thing that you could essentially pick up, and like. I think it would be really smart of them to finally, for the first time, use one of the novels as a guide and make a show around an existing novel. Like, make the Plagueis novel into a show. where you have a straight storyline and you can insert that here. That would literally that book literally fits right here. You know, end this and move on with it from there. Because yeah, with Plagueis being essentially the Rosetta Stone for the entire Skywalker saga, I think that would be deserving to spend some time with that.
For sure. To me, it's one of the slam dunk things that they can do. I mean, it's Plagueis.
Right.
Knights
I
of
mean,
the Old Republic. Everyone
right.
wants it. Everyone wants Revan.
So that's the thing, is you really need to do something with this character now. Just kind of dropping in there in a 30-second at best shot doesn't do the character any justice. Not with as important as this character is to the rest of Star Wars. Well, I know a lot of people don't realize that he is that important, but you know, the Emperor doesn't exist without him. You know, none of the story related in the Skywalker saga would even happen without this character.
Yeah.
So spend some time there. I think it would be worth it, but are they going to? No idea. Now, theoretically, it's possible that one of the movies that they're supposedly working on is this. That'd be cool. But nothing officially announced there.
Yeah. Well, all right. That is the very last Acolyte breakdown and Easter egg episode. So, 1 out of 10, what do you give the Acolyte? What ranking?
Unfortunately, because of the kind of, to me anyways, really weak ending, I at the end of the day, I probably put it at like a 6.5. It's not a bad show. Like, all these people that are claiming that this is a terrible show, that's just simply not true. It's not. Does it have some issues? Yep, it does. Most of the issues that I have are probably editing. I think if you make a couple of nip tucks and edit this slightly differently, everything would make more sense all of a sudden. But yeah, like I said, it's not. There are some slam dunk moments in this, like the lightsaber fights in this show are just phenomenal.
Yeah.
So that was really well done. It's all obviously didn't hurt, just the fact that they've advanced the lightsaber props a little bit further to where they can actually fight with the lit props now, which changes the lighting and makes everything look way better. Without having to do any enhancements to it, like they've had to do in the past. So that makes things cheaper and allows you to actually have cooler lightsaber fights. So I'm looking forward to more of that in the future. But yeah, like I said, I'm at like 6.5. Sadly, in the beginning of the show, I was more on the 8 scale, 8 out of 10. But as the show progressed and didn't progress, just kind of stayed still. To me, it kind of lost a little bit of its luster.
Yeah.
Like I said, lots and lots of cool ideas in here, but none of it is followed up on, and that's too bad.
All right. Well, I think I'm giving it like in the high 7s, maybe an 8. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the Jedi interaction. I enjoyed the fact that it was something that I really didn't go into with any kind of preconceived notions. I just kind of went into it open and ready to get what they gave me. And to me, it all made sense. I didn't really have the issues that a lot of people online did. I mean, it is its own separate entity, and now I know we have Plagueis in there now and Yoda, but I mean they were kind of just Easter eggs almost in a way. But
I mean, Yoda, yeah, they are essentially just Easter eggs.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's no context given to any of it. So.
But yeah, I really enjoyed these new characters and the storytelling around Soul and the Brendok 4 and the Rashomon of it all. I thought that was fine. I was patient with it. I didn't expect to get all the answers that they did end up giving us all at once. I mean, maybe because I saw the interview where Leslie Headland said it's like a big onion. We're going to peel back layers. So I wasn't expecting to get much every episode. I was just kind of along for the ride, and that was a whole lot more, I think, a more enjoyable way to consume this episode, this series as a whole. So,
yeah. But like I said, my problem is with that whole onion example is the fact that they didn't remove any of the layers of the onion. They stayed on the outside. So maybe the little papery outside layer of the onion they removed and showed us the white insides. But that's it. That's as far as they got. There's no layer removal in my view that I can really tell. They just kind of said, okay, here's the whole onion, and this is where we're going to leave it.
yeah, I mean, the whole Virgins thing, the witch coven, how they were created. If Plagueis had a hand in it,
and why they were created. I mean, clearly, if you're going to go through that much trouble to create something, there has to be a reason why you're doing it, and you didn't even bother to give us that. Sure, yeah, the characters die. Okay, well, why? Why is all this happening? That's my biggest problem. There's not a single one of the questions I had for the show in the beginning was answered by the time the show ends. Not one. So the statement of, oh, we're going to treat this like an onion, we're going to slowly peel back. Well, you didn't peel back anything. Like I said, you might have cut off the ends and removed the papery outside shell of the onion, but no layers were removed. You just kind of went, look, this is what you do before you start removing layers. The end. Well,
I mean, I was looking at it as like as far as what happened on Brendok. They answered that. What the whole kind of deal was with the twins. They gave the explanation. We got it that they're the same person, created through the Force, through emergence, and all the other stuff. I mean, that you kind of wonder about. I mean, that's something that it feels like they will leave it in and open-ended because I mean, due to the fact that there's other Star Wars projects and they don't want to interfere with those. You have the story group looking over all this. You have Filoni looking all over this and making sure it doesn't interfere with anything going into the future. So, I mean, it still feels like, like you said, there's still questions that need to be answered. Hopefully, there's a second season or a new season of something else called something else that we can get more answers to. But I mean, that's part of the beauty of Star Wars, that a lot of stuff isn't answered. We still don't know Yoda species. We know we've seen 3 of them in the galaxy, but the explanation of the Force as well. We got the midichlorians, but a lot of people will kind of argue that Star Wars was a whole lot more interesting when it was a little bit more mysterious than it is now. We have a lot of science and answers behind a lot of different things, but I do like to fill in the gaps, though.
right.
I love that they're kind of doing that, and it's an interesting thing that they can do with Star Wars because it's over decades and centuries of stuff that they can do here. So I'm happy with that. And you got to leave a little bit of mystery. And
a little bit of mystery I would have been fine with. I think this is a little bit more than just a little bit of mystery. The way this show was structured, especially, it kind of made the promise of we're gonna find this out in the course of the show, and then we didn't. And that's, it kind of seems like, yeah, I don't know. It's opportunity wasted in a way. This show could have been a whole lot more impactful if you had given a little bit of an answer to some of the things that some of the questions you clearly are posing. But then you don't. And I don't understand why. I don't know if that all ended up on the cutting room floor, or you ran out of budget so you couldn't finish. That is a possibility. Like I said, this feels like we're at the midway point through the show. Maybe we are. Maybe they literally just, spend too much money on things that didn't really matter, and ran out of cash. Disney just said, "Yeah, just figure it out and end it, because you're out of money. We're not paying for any more." That's really is really what this feels like. It's like, you need to figure out an end to this, because we're not paying anymore. Because they spend a lot of money on this show, and it shows. I mean, the sets are beautiful, like the physical sets; those are great. Like I said, the lightsaber choreography, the space chase scene that we got, that was, a movie grade CG. Was it necessary? Probably not. You probably could have saved a little bit of money here and there and focused more on your project rather than showing us pretty pictures. But who knows? At the end of the day, we don't know what actually happened there. But, oh well.
All right, we are at the end here. It was fun doing the pre-show, post-show, and the breakdown Easter egg shows, and we were able to get all of those in for every single episode. And I just want to thank the audience out there listening to us, watching us on Facebook, YouTube, sometimes, most of the time, Twitter, sometimes Instagram when it works. Thank you so much to everyone out there and all the patrons out there that show their support to our show by donating to us. So thank you so much on behalf of Carl. My name's David, and may the force be with you.
Voice.